From Bowl Season Radio, this is the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown on Sirius XM. At the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Frisco, Texas, and the All-Star Players Hotel, here is your host, Brian Estridge.
Welcome in. This is a Tuesday edition of the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown here on Sirius XM. Brian Estridge with the coach Justin Fuente alongside as these teams gearing up for Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central here on Sirius XM. You'll hear the East-West Shrine Bowl, the 100th edition. Now, tomorrow night on our program, we're going to focus on a couple of things. One, we're going to get to visit with the two head coaches. We haven't really talked about the coaching staffs. We're going to do that tomorrow night. Also, it is the 100th anniversary and some new inductees into that Hall of Fame. We will visit with those folks tomorrow as well. But tonight, got a couple of things we got to focus on. We got to focus on the run game and defense. Yesterday was really all about quarterbacks, Coach. Today, there's a lot more to it, obviously, than just the quarterbacks. And we get to hear from Tahj Brooks here shortly, the running back from Texas Tech. You had a chance to be at practice today, and you can tell that the two teams are starting to sort of work their way down into game mode now, right?
Yeah, they're definitely tapering towards the end of the week. Today, they took the pads off. And, it was more than a walkthrough, but less than a practice.
Right.
Kind of that in-between stage there where they covered some situational stuff and they covered some kicking game things that, when you're doing an all-star game, you can't just ignore the kicking game. You've got to at least address certain situations that can come up. So they hit on some of those and did some red zone work, but really backed off them from a physical standpoint. For the players to get to feeling good, get their bodies feeling good. Now they're kind of moving into that mode where almost all of the preparation is now mental and emotional heading into the game.
Yeah, and that mental aspect of it, we're going to talk to a couple of players here tonight, and I get a feel for I get the sense that these guys are, I'm not going to, exhausted's an overreach probably. But I think both mentally and physically, it has been a tough week on them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, they're entering such an unknown now.
Yeah.
Like they're walking into a situation where everything they do, they're being evaluated. Like you could almost see it on today at practice. There was almost a little fight. And it was like you could almost see the kids that were about to square off go, I don't think we should do this.
Right, right.
It's just, every step that they make and every move that they make is being evaluated, and that adds pressure, and you have the anxiety of performance and playing it with and alongside and against people you don't know very well. So, they're a little bit out of their comfort zone, which I think adds to a little bit of that fatigue, and then you got to go practice. And you've got to practice at a high level all the time.
Yes.
There's no coasting out there. There's no easy win out there on that field during practice. So, it's good that they're going to get here a couple days here to kind of get mentally rejuvenated heading in towards the game because the reps will be limited. Like,
right.
Nobody's going to play the whole game. Like,
right.
When you get out there, you gotta be ready to play. You're not going to get multiple opportunities to affect the game.
It's interesting you said that about, hey, here you are with guys that you may not know quite that well, yet you start to see some camaraderie being built in these groups as well. These guys seem to all get along pretty good.
Yeah, in today's day and age, too, like the kids are connected more so than they were obviously 25, 30
right.
years ago, whether it's through all-star games coming up, whether it's social media. They all know, if they don't know each other intimately, they know of each other way more so than maybe 25 or 30 years ago. So in that respect, it's a little bit smaller world. And I would think a little bit easier to maybe draw some connections when you know a little bit more about the person. You just maybe haven't sat across the table from them yet.
All right, we're going to visit with three players throughout the show here tonight, and we pick those players based on the programs they are coming out of for a reason. One, to see how it works its way to the NFL, and that will be the case here with our early conversation with Tahj Brooks, a running back from Texas Tech. We know about that offense that has been going on in West Texas for years. How does that play in the NFL? How does his skill set work in the NFL? We'll talk to Tahj about that. We're going to talk to an offensive lineman who's got 40 career starts at Georgia. The highest level, let's face it, as close to the NFL as you can get, is at Georgia. How does that work its way into the NFL? And then a defensive lineman who played for Dave Aranda, who obviously is one of the great defensive minds in college football today. How does that prep him for the next level. So we were kind of strategic in our conversations. Let's hear Tahj Brooks first, Coach. You want to do that?
You bet.
Tahj, the running back from Texas Tech. He's at a little Manor High School outside of Austin, Texas. We talked to Tahj about the week and how he's starting to adjust to things. How does he feel at this point?
It's been smooth for the most part, man. Just learning a new offense and just getting how practices are run down in the league. So it's been great. It's been fun, actually.
Yeah. How about the terminology? How far off was it for you?
Definitely. It was a difference in that from different run schemes and things and different. The only thing that was different was steps for me, just different steps because, I came from a traditional shotgun offense.
Yeah.
This is more under the center, more base and things like that. So that was really the only difference. The terminology and stuff kind of was the same, but it was just more just about the steps and things.
I loved watching your game over the last several years, and I think one of the things that maybe you were underrated on was your ability to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Definitely.
Do you think folks made notice of that this week?
Yes, sir. I think a lot of coaches and GMs seen that I can catch the ball. I got great hands out the backfield, and they're just natural. It don't look hard. It's something that I always pride myself and always work on in the offseason when I was in school. So.
Defenses are going to be a little bit limited, so you're not going to see a lot of blitzing and not a lot of pickups for you, but some. Is that a part of your game you're comfortable with, picking up those guys, chipping them off and stuff?
Definitely. That's something I pride myself in. I think that's why I'm the best running back in this class at doing, is just picking up pass pros. It's just different guys, different body types that I've seen, and just know how to, get around those guys and know how to pick those guys up, in the best pass protection.
One of the things that you did at Texas Tech to me that was maybe the most impressive thing was you set up your blocks really well. You were maybe the most patient guy in the backfield that I saw this year. And you think about the rapport that you have with that offensive line of yours then. How do you build that in a 5-day period here, that same kind of rapport with this offensive line?
Really just the run schemes. And, I came here for just running routes and just getting that of my game perspective. You can go on my film and watch my tape. I have a lot of inside zone, outside zone, and counter plays that, coaches can evaluate off that and things like that. Just really just showing coaches I can catch the ball out the backfield, natural hands, and just, doing the big things that way. And that's what I want to show them on Thursday, just natural hands, catching the ball, moving the chains, and just being a big play threat that I am.
Yeah. Tahj, tell me about the interviews that you've gone through. What's that been like? Have they been challenging? Have there been some questions that you went, whoa, I wasn't expecting that?
Nah, not for the most part. All the teams, they kind of been consistent on, like, my home life, where I came from, my parents and what they do, and then just grew up through high school recruiting process and all kinds of things like that. It wasn't really no questions that was really hard for me to explain to them and things like that. They didn't really have more questions. They knew more questions about me than I knew about myself, but it was pretty fun. That process, it wasn't stressful at all.
Yeah, so. I don't want to mention I don't want you to mention teams by names, but I mean, was it obvious that there were some that were looking at you with great interest?
Definitely. It was a lot of teams. I want to say about 20, 26 between. Maybe 20 of the teams. They really like me, but just stand down, stand humble, stand to who I am, and just going through this whole process.
All right, tell me what you want out of tomorrow night's game.
Really just show scouts and teams and my family that I can catch the ball out the backfield, just being a runaway threat, showing that I'm very explosive, making guys miss, and then just hopefully that the West team win the game. It's a big thing around here, and it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, I feel like there's some camaraderie between you guys already that not only do you want to win the game, but these might be lifelong brothers of yours now.
Definitely. These might be friendships that I'm making the league and might get drafted with, so it's going to be a fun time and just a fun time to be around.
All right, best of luck, Tahj. Thanks for the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's Tahj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech. Grew up in small-town Texas, Manor High School, back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons, and an offense that's known for throwing the football. To me, that says a little something, Justin.
Yeah, he's been incredibly productive.
Yeah.
And when you see him, part of this, too, is the eye test for these scouts to get a chance to like, literally size these guys up. And what I see in Tahj is a great lower body.
Yep.
He is a thick – those running backs, there's very few, like, tall, angular, great running backs. There's a few, but there's very few. And they're usually just a lower center of gravity with a thicker build, and he's got that. And but what also has size, over 225 pounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's got the things that the good Lord gave him to start out with. And then you throw on top of it, he's been incredibly productive. He's been able to do all the things that you're going to ask a running back to do, which is run the ball, protect, and be involved in the passing game. you got to feel excited about his future.
You talk about being involved in the passing game. 81 catches in his career out of the backfield.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like it makes you want to. Like, did he have to protect, or was he always free releasing?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know that at some point they definitely put him in there and had him protect. But to have a guy, and it's more than just does he have good hands. It's does he have a feel for getting open in zone coverage, from when to sit down, when to break in, when to break out? Can he catch the ball while moving down the field? I mean, there's a little bit to that you can't really see when catching just balls on the jugs machine, that he's obviously got because he's been so darn productive at Texas Tech.
I want to go back to something he said at the very beginning when he talked about the difference in what he saw at Texas Tech and what he's going to see in the NFL, or what he saw this week, and he mentioned steps. Tell us what he's talking about.
Yeah, totally different, but not hard. And basically, when you're playing tailback on the inside zone, they're going to teach you slow to fast through, like slow to the line of scrimmage and fast through the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That's going to stay the same, but how he gets there is going to change. So his footwork from under the center is going to be vastly different than his footwork in the shotgun. It won't be hard for him to pick it up.
Right.
There's a good chance that his key reads will be similar or the same. So basically, when you're coaching a running back, you're trying to get his tempo right. You get him the ball at a certain spot in the backfield with his eyes on his read keys.
Okay.
Because you want to give him a couple reads. If this, then this. If that, then do this. That he can execute time and time again. They give him a best chance to figure out the puzzle that is going on the other side of the ball. So by and large, his keys will be similar, maybe not exactly the same. The plays will be similar to the same, but the way that he gets there and where he's receiving the ball will be completely different.
That's the part that he's got to get accustomed to.
Yeah, that he will get accustomed to, probably with no real issue, because it's not that hard, but it is different.
Yeah, and you don't want to overload them because you want that decision to be a split-second decision as well.
They don't
right?
have a lot of time to do any ciphering back there. Like, they've got to get it figured out. That's why it's got to be simple. Like, it's got to be, we're reading the play side linebacker or the first man on or past the center on this play, which will lead us to our next read, so that they can do that full speed. And that's kind of part of why you want them coming through slow and then pressing the line of scrimmage to acceleration.
And that's why I think it's not going to be a tough adjustment for him, because the one thing that he was in college was patient. He was a patient runner. Had a big offensive line at Texas Tech that he allowed to sort of lead him in the right direction.
Yeah, you can get yourself in trouble. Now, different run schemes and different run plays, the way they're blocked, can require different things from the running back. But when you're talking about zone blocking, which basically every team in America at every level runs some sort of zone blocking, it's about giving those guys time to declare their gaps and either displace the offensive line, to displace a man from his gap, or cover the double team and climb to the second level. And if you're always up on the lineman before they can clear the double team and climb to the second level, there's nowhere for you to run. You're just running back into your own people. So having that good patience, and then the ability to accelerate when the daylight does show, is part of what makes a great running back.
A lot of folks think Tahj will be a third-round pick in the NFL draft. Let's see if he can improve his stock on Thursday night for the East-West Shrine Bowl. This is our countdown show here tonight on the Tuesday night edition, getting you ready for that Thursday night game that you'll hear here 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 7 o'clock Central Time from AT&T Stadium. Justin Fuentes alongside. I'm Brian Estridge. Coming up next, we'll talk to Xavier Truss. 40 career starts at Georgia along the offensive line. Speaking of offensive linemen, let's talk about how that's gotten him ready for the next level. We'll do that when we continue here with our countdown show on SiriusXM.
If your child experiences a burn, Shriners Children's is here with world-renowned burn care. The same doctors who innovate procedures for the most serious burn cases are ready with the most advanced treatments for pediatric burn injuries, no matter the degree. Best of all, our care is provided regardless of a family's ability to pay or insurance status. Visit us at shrinerschildrens.org to see why we're the place to turn for any burn. Shriners Children's, the most amazing care anywhere.
Now, back to the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown.
100th edition of the East-West Shrine Bowl will happen on Thursday night at AT&T Stadium. That's the home, of course, of the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington, Texas. So that night it'll be all about the All-Star Game, the East-West Shrine Bowl, the 100th edition of it, as we mentioned here. And we get a chance to visit with a couple of guys who will be partaking in those events leading up to and into that game throughout the week here on our East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown. I'm Brian Estridge along with Justin Fuente, the coach. As we kind of shift gears here, we've been focused a lot on quarterbacks yesterday. And heard from Shedeur, among others. Shedeur won't play in the game, but just to kind of get a perspective of what it's been like for them to take in this offense. Tahj Brooks talked a little bit about it earlier, the running back at Texas Tech. We have not talked about the offensive and defensive lines, really, and we should focus on those two because a lot of times in these all-star games they get overlooked, but this is maybe the best opportunity that they have to really showcase their wares, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of one-on-one time.
Yes.
Like you're good versus good in pass pro. The NFL is more centered around the passing game. Mm-hmm. Like rushing the passer is more highly valued in the NFL because the quarterbacks are so good and they throw the ball so much more than it is in college football. In college football, there's so much quarterback run game, so much run game, and the quarterbacks aren't as developed that there's just not as big an emphasis. So all of a sudden you can see defensive linemen that have a particular skill set at rushing the passer that maybe you may not associate with being big-time defensive linemen. All of a sudden rocket up the draft board or create more value because they have a particular skill set in terms of rushing the passer. And the same is true with the offensive line.
Right.
When I was at Virginia Tech, we had Christian Darrisaw was a first-round draft pick for the Vikings at left tackle because he's the best pass-setting, offensive lineman in 21 years of coaching I ever saw.
Right.
I mean, he just was so good. He was a good run blocker, but he was an exceptional, pass protector, and that elevated him up the draft board.
When you think about it, too, here in this week and in this game particular on Thursday night, because the defense is a little limited in what they can do, it creates a lot more just man-on-man stuff. They're not blitzing 8 guys and you're worried about – no, this is, okay, how does that right tackle handle that defensive end? And to me, that's what makes it special.
No, you're correct. Like there's much less scheming going on and much more individual battles.
Right.
And we're obviously where that rears its head is offensive and defensive line, particularly in the pass game, and then obviously wide receivers and defensive backs.
Yeah.
And the defensive backs are now charged with defending these wide receivers with a whole new set of rules. I mean, we talked about this last year, but the way that the game is officiated in the defensive backfield in the NFL is drastically different than college. You can get away with a lot of contact in college. In the NFL, they don't allow it in the secondary. So that's a challenge for those defensive backs. But you're going to get to see a lot more of game situations that just require one-on-one execution than you would maybe even just in a normal game because there'd be so much more scheme involved in a normal game.
Can you tell, and don't name names here, but can you tell, especially this week when you're watching practice, you're watching offensive linemen, can you say to yourself, that guy's been well coached? Can you tell by technique did they display today that guy's been taught right?
I do think you can glean a window into their preparedness by watching them and realizing what they've been taught, particularly in the pass game.
Yeah.
I just think that's so technique driven, and it's so counterintuitive to play left tackle and take the worst athlete group on the field and make them go backwards. It seems like, what are we doing? It's really difficult. And but the short answer to your question is yes, you can see through a little bit of work of technique of who has been exposed to people that are that know what they're doing on the offensive line.
And this guy has Xavier Truss from Georgia, 40 career starts, played for Stacy Searles, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in college football, and he's athletic too. That's the other thing. So it's a really good combination when you could find guys who also are, 6'7", 320 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you start one game at Georgia, you beat somebody out that was a good player.
Right.
And to start that many games to play for Coach Searles, who in the college ranks just has a tremendous reputation. He's been almost everywhere and just coached. I mean, I don't know how many NFL offensive linemen he's coached, but it's a bunch.
Yeah, and this is a guy who came out of Rhode Island. He is the highest-rated college football player ever out of the state of Rhode Island. And he ended up in Athens, Georgia.
Well, if you're good, they'll find you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and they did here. Xavier Truss joining us right now. And Xavier is a guy that has, he's been exposed to it all, as we talked about earlier. And we asked him about the massive preparation download that this week has been and how he has prepared himself for it and really what it means for the next level and what it means for his ability at the next level.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting experience. It's new. It's great getting around a bunch of different competition and just straight ballers from all around the country, different programs, seeing and meeting different NFL coaches, college coaches. It's just been a great experience so far. I'm looking forward to the rest of the week.
You played at the highest level, though, in Georgia with one of the great coaches, Stacy Searles. Tell me a little bit about what your preparation was for this one.
Oh, just getting around Coach Searles and just remembering that, I've gone through Georgia football practices. Yeah. I've been through it all. Just kind of relax, breathe, and take it all in. Just enjoy myself. And I think I've been doing that so far. So
we talked to Gareth earlier, who played at Lindenwood, not at the highest level.
Right.
But it's interesting how you got guys from all over the country at all different walks of football showing up here, and they all can play.
Right. That's all. I think that's what matters at the end of the day is if you can play. Can we trust you to play and do your job? And, that's what's going to end up getting you to the next level. I don't think it matters really where you played. It's just the journey you've gone through. And, a lot of us are coming to the end of our college journeys now and starting our new NFL journeys, and it's exciting.
What is it? Is there an area or two where you tell yourself, hey, I want to work on this. I want to get better at this, and this is a good week for me to do that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, this week, it's the little technical things in the game plan, trying to take what I can from the O-line coaches who coach the guys at the next level. These guys know exactly what the heck they're talking about, and just transforming that to on the field, doing that as well as I can. I mean, all the other off-the-field stuff, the speed work and the strength work, that I can always be improving on. I feel like I'm doing that at my training facility. But here, I'm just trying to take it day by day and learn what I can.
Peel back the curtain for us, the one-on-one interviews that you have with teams. What are those like? Where do they go as far as the questions and the direction they go in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are pretty straightforward. They're just really trying to understand who you are as a person, make sure you're a right fit for their program if they are interested in you. I know the big question I got is how the hell did a kid from Rhode Island end up playing football at Georgia and staying for so long? So it's been interesting and it's been exciting. It's been all of the above, talking to different teams here and there. So I'm just looking forward to the rest of the week.
Yeah, have anyone stood out to you? And you don't have to name individuals, but I mean, have you been kind of peeking over and watching the quarterbacks and receivers and the backs as well? I mean, what do you think of the talent level?
I won't name names, but I'll say there's talent all over the field. And again, like you said, it's smaller FCS schools all the way up to Power 5. Legendary schools that you've heard of, the Georgias, the Alabamas, and you have everything in between, and that's what I think makes this bowl great.
All right, there he goes. That is Xavier Truss, the offensive lineman from Georgia, and he is right. I mean, we mentioned in there Lindenwood. You've got an offensive lineman, Gareth Warren, who will play alongside him from Lindenwood, who gets an opportunity here. And then you've got a 40-star guy in Xavier Truss at Georgia at the highest level. The thing that stood out to me, Justin, in our conversation with him is a maturity. You could tell that he has been around and there's nothing too big for him.
Yeah, he sounds like a grown-up. He
Yes.
doesn't sound like a kid, giving his interview. And he certainly looks like a grown-up, I can tell you that much.
right.
My goodness, had to be the biggest guy in Rhode Island by 10 miles. But, the other thing, too, I'm just listening to him talk and talking about going through the Georgia program. Think about the guys he had to block every day in practice.
Sure, yeah.
You know, like think about the work. And just because he had to doesn't mean that he can play in the NFL, but that's a great training ground for practice every single day when you're blocking, other NFL players, time after time after time.
Yeah, and it has taken a little bit of time, but the NFL now rewarding these offensive linemen with contracts that are worthy of the job that they do, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to protect the most important investment in the franchise, and that's the quarterback. And with the way that teams are throwing the football and the amount of times the quarterback is standing there in the pocket with his attention directed downfield, and the amount of resources the other side of the ball is devoting towards rushing that franchise thing, better spend some money on protecting him and keeping him upright, because having him healthy is important.
And we have seen with the franchise here in DFW, and obviously talking about the Cowboys, you have seen there are two different ways to go at it. Do you spend your money on the offensive line? Do you spend your money on the quarterback? Those teams that are continuing on in what we've seen in the playoffs, it starts up front. The offensive line is very important.
And it's amazing to look at these quarterbacks in the NFL. When they're surrounded by really good players, they seem to play better. Isn't that amazing? You know, you look at Sam Darnold in Minnesota this year, and I know the playoff game didn't go well, but throughout the season, the guy played at an incredibly a higher level than he's ever played at before.
Yeah.
Well, then you look at their roster, and you start to realize, maybe there's a reason why he's playing at such a high level. And then you look at some other guys, and you wonder why they struggle earlier in their career, and then you look at who they're surrounded by, and you realize that they don't have a chance.
Yeah.
So finding a way to secure that up front is incredibly important. And the ability for a quarterback, particularly a young one in the NFL, to be able to turn to his right or left and hand the ball off to somebody and get 3 or 4 yards because the offensive line can move people is incredibly important.
Yeah, Xavier Truss is going to be an important part of that for an NFL team in the future. The Georgia 40-game starter getting ready for Thursday night's East-West Shrine Bowl. All right, we're going to flip gears to defense next. This guy fascinates me. We talked about the fact that we came up with 3 guests here tonight out of programs that have prepared them in different ways for the next level. Garmon Randolph is one of those. Defensive lineman, played at Baylor. Now, there are other defensive linemen here that have gotten more attention, but this guy coming out of the Dave Aranda system. We're going to talk to Garmon Randolph next when we continue. It's the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown, live here tonight on Sirius XM.
If your child has a common orthopedic condition, that doesn't mean you can only get common treatments. You can choose Shriners Children's. Our world-class care is not limited to insurance networks or to what's been done before. The same doctors who innovate treatments for the most complicated orthopedic issues will help your child grow and develop properly. See what we do at shrinerschildrens.org. Shriners Children's, the most amazing care anywhere.
Now, back to the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown.
Live here at the Hyatt Regency, we're in Frisco, Texas, ready for the East-West Shrine Bowl. By the way, the entire Metroplex has been part of this week of preparation leading into the East-West Shrine Bowl that'll happen on Thursday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, home of the Cowboys. Here, the Hyatt Regency in Frisco has been home of the team. Both teams, the East and the West squads, have been housed here. Meeting rooms and such have taken place here, but they've worked out at North Texas, University of North Texas in Denton, at their indoor facility, who have been terrific hosts, by the way, and a great complex and a great facility there.
They have a great setup.
Yes.
I was really excited. I hadn't been up there, and it's been a little bit cold for the last couple of weeks in the Metroplex, or cold for down here.
Right.
And my first day to go to practice, I was worried that we're going to have heat in the indoor, and I walked in there, and it's like being at the beach, man.
Exactly.
It was awesome. I mean, they've done a great job with their facilities and really been fine hosts.
Yes. All right. Now let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk defense because we haven't done enough of that to date. And we pull out Garmon Randolph, who's a defensive end from Baylor, for a couple of different reasons. I want to start with this reason first. Dave Aranda, to me, who's kind of a defensive savant in college football, Tell me how playing in a Dave Aranda system sets a guy like Randolph up to be successful.
Well, when you play for somebody that is as accomplished as Coach Aranda is on either side of the ball, and his specialty is obviously defense, has coached as many good players as Coach Aranda has and has had long-term success on the defensive side of the ball, it can't help but be a positive thing. When you're asked to do things, multiple skill sets to show your versatility, whether that's dropping into coverage or learning how to rush the passer, or, and maybe the most important thing, understanding how you fit in the overall scheme. You get a whole part whole concept in where you don't just understand your responsibility, but you understand your responsibility, and it's taught to you in a manner that teaches you how your responsibility fits into the greater good of everybody else and why it's important. It can really lead to a better overall understanding and a better player with better opportunities down the road.
And his system, not the simplest in the world, right? I mean, he shows you a lot of stuff.
Now, he has to do a good job simplifying it for his team, because when you watch it, it seems really complicated.
Right.
But he must do a great job getting it pared down. Those guys understand how they fit because they're asked to do a tremendous amount,
and they play it fast. And when you're asked to do a lot and play fast, you've got a mastery of it.
Yeah, the worst thing you can have is a defensive player out there thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's reactionary. You have to be able to be anticipatory and play fast. And if you're on your heels, you have no shot on the defensive side of the ball. So for Coach Aranda to get all of that taught and get those guys playing fast, I think is remarkable and will only benefit those kids down the road.
All right, Garmon Randolph, we're going to talk about him in specific after we hear from him. Here he is. He's from Jefferson, Georgia, and he ended up in Waco, Texas at Baylor. Garmon Randolph, the defensive end in the Dave Aranda system.
Everything's exhausted, but, I mean, it's all worth it, you know. You get to get yourself put in front of all these teams, you know, all these connections. It's a good experience. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and what you're made of. Yeah. You might not have thought that coming into this, but you definitely are. So everything is a positive experience for sure.
Garmon, when you think about being around these other athletes, these are the best of the best, the other one percenters like you, does it bring out the best in you? I mean, is that what being here does?
Definitely. You don't got no choice.
Yeah.
You got all eyes on you. You go into the practice facility where we practicing at, it's like a stadium.
Yeah.
It's damn near like a stadium. You ain't got no choice but to raise the level of competition because that's all that's around you.
Yeah. When you got here, you probably had a couple of things in your mind that, hey, I'm going to prove to these guys I can do this. Here now, almost ready for game time. Or do you feel like you're there? Do you feel like you've proven some things?
Oh, most definitely. But there's definitely still stuff that I can prove.
Yeah.
And the game will be the time to do that.
Right.
Since we're done practicing, really.
Right. From a difficulty standpoint, I get the sense that the interviews were just as difficult as the practice. Am I right?
Yes, 100%. It's real nerve-wracking. You don't know what they're going to ask you. I mean, and they know everything about you, so you can't shy away from nothing. And you can't lie. They're going to know if you're telling the truth. So
they know that you went from Jefferson, Georgia, and you ended up in Waco, Texas at Baylor University. They know you were a tight end, and it became a defense, all those sorts of things. How do you answer that, though? When someone says, why did you go to Waco? Why did you end up at Baylor? How do you answer it, and how do you talk about how good the years have been, how rewarding they've been there?
How do I talk about it? I say everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Most definitely. I mean, I won some championships there, conference championships. Made a lot of plays. So I mean, I got my degree also, and it's from a prestigious university. Right. So I would say it's all a great experience, and if it wasn't for Baylor, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So.
And oh, by the way, you played for a pretty good defensive coach in Dave Aranda, who knows what he's doing. How has that time prepared you for the next level?
He's a very cerebral person, so he's definitely prepared me for the next level, not just like playing wise, but like playbook wise, because the defenses he run is out of this world.
Yeah. Garmon Randolph's with us right now from Baylor. Tell me this: when you get here and you're limited a little bit defensively on what you guys can do, right? it almost makes the individual that much more important, right? Because there's not a blitz scheme, there's not a blitz package. It's all about, okay, you're getting to prove mano a mano, man on man, what you can do, right?
Yes, that's fun. I mean, that's real football.
Yeah.
Ain't no game planning, ain't no scheming.
Right.
You're going to have to beat the man in front of you. So we're going to see.
Yeah. And by the way, it feels like these guys are you guys are fired up to play. You want to win this game.
Yeah, definitely. I ain't a loser.
Exactly. Hey, congratulations. We're pulling for you, man. Thanks for the time tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, that's Garmon Randolph there, the defensive end from Baylor, and you can hear it. I mean, hey, you don't want to lose. I'm not a loser. You want to get after it, and I think he kind of liked the fact that there wasn't a lot of game planning. There wasn't a lot of blitz packages. It was a chance just to showcase what he's all about.
No, you're right. He sounds excited to go play and excited that it's not going to be particularly difficult, right? It's going to be, if you stop the run on first down, second down is going to be a pass. Get ready to go rush the passer.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to put those one-on-one moves together and see what he can do.
All right, here's what I want to get to. Here's in the journalism business, there's a phrase called burying the lead. He's 6'8", 320 or 260 pounds, I should say. 6'8", 260 pounds at defensive end. How does that work in the NFL?
Well, he stands out when you step out there on the field to watch them practice.
Yeah.
And I had the luxury of spending an afternoon with John Tierlink, and sports fans, NFL fans may know that name, but one of the most famous defensive line coaches in the country. Won multiple Super Bowls, one with the Colts, one with the Broncos. Was in the league forever. Coach John Randall.
I remember him as a Vikings.
Yeah,
line
did
coach,
John Randall's Hall of Fame induction speech.
Yeah.
And I got to spend an afternoon hanging out with him, and he told me there's two things you need. You need one of two things to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL, and his thing was rushing the passer. He's like, one, you need to run 4-4. Okay. You need to either be like Dwight Freeney,
right,
and be able to run 4-4, or you need to be 6'8".
6'8".
Yeah. He said you need to be long.
Okay.
You need to be long enough that you can touch the lineman without the lineman touching you.
Yeah.
Meaning your arms are long, your frame is long, like Chris Dolman.
Yes, oh yeah.
Like he could touch those guys, those offensive linemen, and they could not get a hold of him so that he could rush the passer. Garmon has that.
Right.
And this is kind of what I'm talking about, where like the skill set to play defensive line in the NFL is just it's not dramatically different, but it is different. Like it is rush the passer centric, and if you can find guys that have those skill sets, they can stay in the league for a long time, almost like specialty players.
Sure. All right. The 6'8" part, well, obviously, you're chalked that up as helpful. The 260. Is that a little light at defensive end for him in the NFL?
I mean, I would imagine. And looking at him, I don't think he's going to weigh 260 for the rest of his career.
Right.
I think he is going to gain weight, and that's part of what these guys are trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That they're as much into what you weigh and how you look weighing that weight as anything. And, they're looking at, people would be appalled if they heard the width of their hips.
Sure.
How much weight do we think that they can gain on their lower body and their upper body? And from what I've heard from other people, I'm not an expert in the NFL evaluation, but I do know a lot of people up there, and they will tell me what they think. Yeah. They think that he has got room to grow into the 280, 285 area. Now you're talking about a 6'8" guy that's 280, 285 that moves like he does, that plays on the edge. You got a chance.
Yeah, you talked earlier about sometimes on offensive line you're taking the most unathletic guy and asking him to go backwards. This is a guy who was maybe one of the more athletic guys who's going forward. Yes. He's got a real advantage. This is a guy who was a tight end. I asked him off air, I said, hey, seriously, how did you end up in Waco? And during the recruiting process, interestingly enough, and he laughed because you coaches, you'll say anything, in the recruiting process, Justin. He said that it was a promise that I could play both ways, that he was told I could play tight end and defensive end at Baylor. And I said, how long did that last? He said, I never got to tight end.
Yeah, not even one day.
No, he said, I never got to tight end.
Well, I'm interested. I think Matt Rule recruited him.
Yeah.
Well, Matt Rule has developed an incredible reputation of finding defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. He had great defensive linemen when he was at Temple.
Okay.
And then where he found them and how he got them to come to Temple, I don't know, but he did.
Yeah.
He obviously at Baylor, they had a very good defensive line. They were very good on defense. And then obviously the NFL was a little bit out of his control. But now you're watching him do this at Nebraska. Last year they were really good on the defensive line. I would imagine the future of the Nebraska. But Matt has an ability to see these guys that play tight end or whatever it is and project them into being defensive linemen, and it seems like he hits on every single one of them.
All right, let's see if he is the next one. Garmon Randolph out of Baylor, 6'8", 260. Keep your eye on him on Thursday night for the East-West Shrine Bowl, live from AT&T Stadium. You'll hear it here on Sirius XM. All right, when we get back, Eric Galko is going to join us. This guy's I loved visiting with him. He's the director of football operations and player personnel. This guy's a guru when it comes to both analytics, but also getting to know these players and their personality. Eric's going to join us next. We'll talk about how the week has unfolded when we continue with our countdown show after this timeout.
If your child experiences a burn, Shriners Children's is here with world-renowned burn care. The same doctors who innovate procedures for the most serious burn cases are ready with the most advanced treatments for pediatric burn injuries, no matter the degree. Best of all, our care is provided regardless of a family's ability to pay or insurance status. Visit us at shrinerschildrens.org to see why we're the place to turn for any burn. Shriners Children's, the most amazing care anywhere.
Now, back to the East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown.
Tuesday night edition continues here at the Hyatt Regency in Frisco. I'm Brian Estridge. Justin Fuente is alongside. Coach, I remember this from last year, but I've forgotten it. I'll be honest with you. You played in an all-star game. Did you not?
The the blue-gray game.
The blue-gray game. Yeah, you played it. So you know what these weeks are all about. And the host cities and the committees that put these on, they do a tremendous job, don't they? It's amazing to watch them put them together.
They really do. And the amount of work that has to go in behind the scenes. You know, football is an inefficient sport to begin with in terms of roster sizes and nutrition and the need for trainers and equipment and facilities and all that sort of stuff. And the amount of work these people do behind the scenes to put on a first-class event, a beautiful hotel down here in Frisco, is really remarkable.
Yeah, Eric Galko has been a terrific help for us. He is the Director of Football Operations and Player Personnel for the East-West Shrine Bowl. He joins us right now. Eric, so far so good as far as the week is concerned, huh?
Oh, it's been awesome. It's been, certainly having a player like Shadur Sanders here taking a lot of the media attention has been great, and he has been incredible, not just with our NFL teams, but with media and people in the organization too. So having a guy like him brings a lot of aura to it, but we believe is probably another record-breaking year in terms of draft picks and players for us. So we're super pumped by the week count so far. Players are healthy. Players are enjoying themselves. We're finishing up their NFL interviews for the week too. So thankfully so far it's been a great week.
One of the things that you do in this recruitment process of getting these guys here, I can see is you take into account all kinds of things, including character, because these are good guys.
Yeah, character is really important, and we, NFL teams look at how we're doing in some ways based off how many guys make it in the NFL, and we know that guys that make it are the guys that are taking care of themselves on and off the field, and our good kids do. And I've always been impressed every year, maybe because of NIL, but these guys just seem way more prepared than they did 5-6 years ago, and they're really adults here as well, too. So NFL teams are impressed, and we're thankful to have some really good people not only be at the Shrine Bowl and help NFL teams, but also in part represent Shriners Children, which is so important.
Yeah, and you've got player personnel people from all the teams here, obviously, but to me, the guys that are really, intentional are these coaches, and talking with them and just seeing how they take this seriously, don't they?
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. I mean, opportunity for them to help players, which a lot of these guys really appreciate that moment, too. It's a chance for them to grow as coaches and do a different job or work with different people or have to kind of mesh whatever their system is pretty quickly. Yeah. They only get about a week heads up they're going to be here and kind of make that all work. And then obviously they can report back to their NFL teams about who they get a chance to work with and how they performed as well, too. So it's like threefold valuable for our NFL head coaches, too, and they take it very seriously all week.
Eric, in this day and age of the draft and the portal and NIL, we hear all the negative about college athletes. When you're around them here, though, you find out all the positive.
Yeah, I mean, for one, these guys are able to really be professionals at an early age and understand, when they transfer, it's the same as if they go to free agency in the NFL and make decisions and talking to these guys about, hey, why did you go to this school? Well, it's because of this, this, and this, and this. They're able to be really thoughtful at such a young age as well, too. And then it also gives players a great chance to do something else. One aspect of the portal and NIL, 5-6 years ago, these guys had to come out for the draft if they needed money. And now these guys all have some basis of money. They can make really smart business, football, life decisions as well, too. So all the guys that are in the draft class and good players to be here are guys that are intentional about their plan to play in the NFL.
You live, eat, and breathe football, but the mission of the Shriners portion of it is important to you, too, isn't it?
It's super important. And the fact that if we have good players here, we get good media attention, allows more people to learn what the hospital is all about, having our players be at media day and appreciate that. We've had many players the last couple of years make Shriners Children's their My Cause, My Cleats. So I think the chance, especially towards the end of the week, kind of tie that all together with these players. They appreciate, we appreciate, and it's really long-lasting for all of us.
All right, final thing. You've had great experience over the years on the West Coast. This is year 100. Obviously, Vegas as well has been a part. Tell me how DFW's done over the last couple of years as a host city.
No, Dallas has been great. Obviously, so many players are from this area. How many people love football here. Ticket sales are outstanding as well, too. And really the environment, the culture of being in Dallas, being in Texas, being such a big event here as well, too. It's a great chance to really grow and kind of talk about football in the context of people in Texas that love it, but also make sure nationally they know how special it is, too.
All right, we're looking forward to Thursday night. Thanks for letting us be a part of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Eric Galko, the Director of Football Operations and Player Personnel with the East-West Shrine Bowl. You'll hear it Thursday night here on Sirius XM. Coming up tomorrow night, Michael Yam will be here in this chair along with the head coach, Justin Fuente, for our producer-engineer, Kyle Cross. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for another edition of East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown here on Sirius XM.
The East-West Shrine Bowl Countdown has been a presentation of Bowl Season Radio and First Team Ventures.